Hi guys, it's been a while since I made a gaming video, but I've been playing Call of Duty Cold War a lot and dealing with the weapon XP grind, and I wanted to figure out how to best optimize that. I'm also working on getting the Dark Ether camos, so all the zombies camos. I'll talk about that a little bit, but the math in this video is specifically trying to figure out the absolute fastest way to level up guns in zombies. A couple of things before I get started. I play on PC with mouse and keyboard, and my games are all on a SATA SSD, so this might not be completely applicable if you play on something different. But as I'll show, if your load times are slower than mine, then it actually applies even more. Even if they're quite a bit faster, it still applies actually. This analysis might be a little late. The new zombies map, Firebase Z, comes out right away, but it will still apply to the old one. I'm also not looking at the cranked mode, which results in more zombies coming faster, but has a smaller number of zombies per round. If you don't like zombies, or don't like repetitive grinding, then you should probably do your weapon leveling in one of the PvP modes, or Warzone Plunder. If, on the other hand, you want a consistent way to do it, then repeating the first few rounds of zombies on Die Maschine might be the best way for you for at least part of the time. Maybe just until you unlock some attachments for PvP, maybe until you take it all the way up to 55. The question in using this method is how many rounds to do to get the most experience for your time. There are a lot of users on Reddit and YouTube that say 3 rounds or 5 rounds. They're a bit off, and I'm going to show you why. As I said, the question is how to get the most experience for your time. The first part we have to figure out is how much XP you actually get, depending on the number of rounds you complete. Weapon XP is kind of a hidden stat in Cold War. They don't actually give you any numbers, just a progress bar. We have to use that to compare the amount of XP you get when you finish one number of rounds versus another number of rounds, and you have to do it all within the same weapon level. Progress bar isn't very accurate, it's only got so many pixels in it, which makes it a little bit chunky, but you can fix that problem by turning your resolution way up, in my case to 6K. I don't actually have a 6K monitor, I just span it across multiple screens. So I did that before taking screenshots. The other issue is that if you level up in the middle of your test, your numbers all end up garbage and you have to start over again. So after many runs, I was able to make some comparisons. The first thing I wanted to test for was consistency. To do this, I did a couple runs to the end of round 3 on a level 34 weapon and measured the change in progress bar pixels. In both cases, the pixel count changed by exactly the same amount, 127 pixels. This verifies that the progress bar is a useful measurement, and in fact later, when I test the level 34 KSP with 2 3-round runs and a 5-round run, I get the same 127 pixels again. After verifying consistency, I wanted to test if critical hits matter. I did this by doing 2 runs to the end of round 3 with an LW3. In the first run, I made 100% headshots, and in the second run, I made 100% leg shots. I used the LW3 because it one-shots anywhere up to round 3. I think round 4 actually, but this was only 3. There was no difference in weapon XP. Well, technically 1 pixel more for non-crit, but that's within margin of error. So critical hits don't matter for weapon XP. You should still try to get crits though, because it makes everything faster. But if you miss a few, don't worry about it, it's not hurting your weapon leveling. Next, I did a bunch of tests comparing how much weapon XP you get completing 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds, 5 rounds, and 6 rounds. In this one, you can see that for a level 34 KSP, 5 rounds grew progress by 280 pixels, and 3 rounds grew progress by 127 pixels. This means that finishing round 5 gives you 2.205 times as much weapon XP as finishing round 3. In this one, I did the same test with an LW3 at level 31. Finishing round 5 gives 299 pixels of progress, while the 2 round 3 tests gave 134 and 135 pixels of progress each. A tiny difference due to margin of error in pixels, but almost exactly the same results as in the last test. 2.205 times as much XP, roughly. In this one, I used the LW3 at level 32 to compare finishing round 1, round 2, round 3, and round 4. Finishing round 1 grew progress by only 26 pixels, round 2 by 80, round 3 by 135 pixels, again, which is a little odd since it's a higher level, but the XP needs don't actually grow very fast at this point. And round 4 by 200 pixels. This means that finishing round 4 gives you 1.481 times as much weapon XP as finishing round 3, while only finishing round 1 gives you 0.193 times as much, and round 2 gives us 0.593 times as much. The last test I had planned to do was comparing round 5 to 6 with the LW3 at level 33. Finishing 5 levels gave 280 pixels of progress, just like the KSP at level 34, while finishing level 6 gave 391 pixels of progress. This means that finishing level 6 gives 1.396 times as much weapon XP as finishing level 5. Now completion time matters too, but you might see where I'm going with this. I kinda went into it thinking 5 was the best, so I'd only planned to test up to 6. When I got to this point, I realized that assumption might have been wrong, so I decided to test level 7 as well. You may have also noticed the similar pixel counts between different levels. It seems that the XP requirement for 31 and 32 are the same. Then it moves up and 33, 34 are the same, etc., etc. The odd number is the same as the even number above it. It turns out, finishing round 7 gives 2.602 times as much weapon XP as round 4, and 1.757 times as much as finishing round 5, and 1.264 times as much as finishing round 6. That's a smaller jump than the 1.396 we got from finishing round 6 over 5, but it's still a significant jump. Putting all of that together, we get these results, showing how much weapon XP we get by finishing a number of rounds compared to a different number of rounds. On its own, this may show the direction we're going, but next we need to figure out how long each option takes. In order to do this, I did 7 runs to round 6, since I first thought it was going to be okay to ignore round 7, and then when I found out it wasn't, I did 7 runs to round 7. Each run can be broken down into the time it takes to load in, time to finish each round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and time it takes to quit and get back to the menu where you can start the process all over again. I converted these into per round times, with load and leave counted as part of that. Most of these runs were doing it as fast as I could, but I left in 3 runs with the Milano and 1 with the SKS where I was taking it easier, pausing to look at menus and things, and ran out to the wing. I left them in just so I could show the effect of slower runs. Next, I used these values to show how long it would take for each weapon if I loaded in, did 1 round and left, then loaded in, did 2 rounds and left, 3 rounds and left, right up to 7 rounds. Well, 6 rounds for the first 7 runs. You can see that my worst run to round 6 takes a total of 475 seconds, while my worst try-hard round to 6 takes 449 seconds with the 1911 pistol. My fastest with the RPD was 396 seconds, and with the Krig was 397 seconds. Finishing 7 rounds, my total worst time was 582 seconds with the Milano. My best was 467 with the RPD. The Milano time is probably not realistic as I was messing around, but I'm going to leave it in anyways to show what happens if you're slower at killing zombies. All of that results in these charts, showing how the time compared depending on how many runs you complete for my slowest and fastest runs. With the Milano, it takes 1.38 times longer to finish 2 rounds than 1, 1.36 times longer to finish 3 than 2, 1.33 times longer to finish 4 than 3, 1.28 times longer to finish 5 than 4, 1.3 times longer to finish 6 than 5, and 1.25 times longer to finish 7 than 6. I won't talk about the RPD, but you can pause and read the chart if you'd like to. Let's look at level 1 first. We can see that in the worst case, it takes 1.38 times as long to complete level 2 as level 1. But completing level 2 gives 3.08 times as much XP as level 1, so obviously 2 is better than 1. Let's look at round 2 versus 3. In this case, the RPD has the worst time multiplier. It takes 1.38 times as long to finish round 3 as it does round 2, but you get 1.69 times as much XP for it. This means it's better to finish round 3 than round 2. Let's look at round 4 versus 3. The Milano is worst again. It takes 1.33 times as much time to finish round 4 as it does 3. But you get 1.48 times as much XP, so doing round 4 is better than doing round 3, although not by that much. Let's look at round 4 versus round 5. The Milano is worst again, at 1.28 times as much time to finish round 5 as it takes to finish round 4. The thing is, finishing round 5 gives 1.49 times as much XP as finishing 4. There's a giant XP jump at round 5, making round 5 better than round 4. Well, what about 6? The Milano takes 30% more time to finish round 6 than round 5. I switched to percentage instead of decimals. Finishing round 6 gives 40% more experience. So finishing round 6 is better than finishing 5, even on the slow Milano. Well then, what about round 7? Well, the Milano takes 25% more time to finish round 7 than 6. XP gain, though, is 26% higher to finish round 7 than round 6. So, it is a little bit better to finish round 7 with the Milano, but we've probably found the cutoff. Basically, if you do 6 round runs or 7 round runs, your XP speed will be about the same. Technically 7 is better, but it's not really noticeable. The RPD, on the other hand, only takes 18% more time to finish round 7 over round 6. So at 26% higher XP, it's quite a bit better to finish round 7 with the RPD instead of 6. So now you might ask, well, what about round 8? I'm not going to test round 8. We found the cutoff point for a slower weapon, and even with faster ones, round 8 is getting into the territory where you want to start upgrading your gun. Normally you would pack a punch at the end of round 6 or round 7, 8 at the latest. For most players, round 8 is doable without upgrading, but you'd at least want to break out into the crash site area, which kind of starts to slow everything down. If you're good enough to stay in the starting area, then round 8 might work for you, but I start to struggle and even get down to occasionally trying to speed run at round 8. A few questions. What if your load times are faster than mine? Well, I don't imagine they're much faster given I play on an SSD and a high-end PC, unless you're on PS5. But if we cut load times to 30 seconds and exit times to 20 seconds, we get this chart for level completion time. In this case, round 6 is now a little bit better than round 7 for the Milano. I'm not showing it, but for the RPD, round 7 is still better. I'm also not going to show this because it's totally not realistic. But if the load time and exit time were 0, then 6 is still better than 5, but 3 is much better, and 1 becomes the best. That would be just doing a 13-second round over and over and over and over again. Again, this is impossible, so you might as well ignore it. Well, what if your load times are slower? Well, if they're slower than mine, it will push the optimal round even higher, so for everything it will be finishing round 7. What if you're not as fast at killing zombies as me? I don't think I'm that great, but if you're considerably slower than my bad Milano time, that likely means you're having trouble quick killing and are getting into fights where you have to run away. That can push your optimal level down, but it should never really be lower than 5. If you haven't already done it, I would try to play the game a bit and get the Ethereum crystal so you can unlock the weapon classes and have 8 attachments on your weapons in zombies. The other thing might be that you're just starting with a very low level weapon with no attachments that can't perform yet. Or maybe you're using the Die Maschine. In that case, just do shallow runs to round 4 or 5 until you can get your attachment slots filled. If you're on PC, you really need optics. Iron sights are terrible. What about the camos? Well, this guide is mostly about pure weapon leveling, but we can talk a little bit about the zombies' camos. For pistols, you want to get them to at least level 15 before you start going deeper than this guide. For everything else, including the launchers, you want to get them to level 20. This is so you have the vintage and brushstroke challenges open. These 2 camo sets require you to go deeper into the game, as brushstroke requires pack-a-punch kills, which you can't get until the end of round 6 if you're lucky, more likely the end of round 7. And vintage requires you to kill megatons with the weapon you're getting camos for. This seems to have changed. You used to be able to get 2 per kill, but right now you have to get the last shot on the last of the small megatons to get 1 counted. You don't get 3 or even 2, even though the big megaton splits into 2. You don't have to go to work on these at level 20 though. You can wait until as high as level 40 with primaries, since you should be able to get all of your pack-a-punch kills before level 50, even if you start at 40. And then you still need 200 kills after level 50 to get the final set of camos. There's typically 1 megaton round every 5, starting 2 rounds after you turn on the power. So if you pack-a-punch at level 7, you'll fight your first one at 9. That means if you exfil at 10, you'll get 1. If you exfil at 15, you'll get 2. If you exfil at 20, you'll get 3 for sure. You might get 4, because you may have to fight one during the exfil. You typically won't have your gun pack-a-punched until 120 to 160 kills into the game. So to get the 2500 pack-a-punch kills, you'll need to go pretty deep or play a lot of rounds. I believe it takes about 4 25 round runs using only your primary, or 10 to 12 round 15 runs. That's about all I have to say about camos. The 2500 pack-a-punch kills is a pain in the butt. A few hints for quick leveling using this method. Don't worry about ammo. You're not trying to save your money for the pack-a-punch, for soda pop, or even for doors. If you're running low, just buy more. This also means go ahead and use higher damage barrels, even if they mean lower ammo counts. If you're using a slow reloading gun like an LMG, don't reload during your round. You can reload between rounds, but if you run out of ammo or close to running out of ammo during a round, just refill it straight from the box. It fills the magazine instantly instead of taking 15 seconds to reload. I would recommend saving the shotguns for actual play when you're going deep. They're probably the best secondaries to have other than the blaster or the Die Shockwave. So you'll likely level them up actually playing through the zombies Easter egg and just getting your Ethereum crystals by going deep into the rounds. You might not want to waste your time fast leveling them, unless you don't plan to ever go deep and you just want to use them in game. Try not to open any doors at all. If you do, it widens out where the zombies spawn and slows you down. You can buy stamina up in between rounds if you think it helps. Juggernog too, I guess, but that will mean you're fighting out near the wing and slowing things down considerably. Just opening the first door even spreads out zombies and slows you down a bit. If the weapon you want to level up is an early wall gun, you may want to buy the wall gun version too. This is the MP5, the Hauer shotgun, the Die Maschine, all of which can be reached by opening only 1 or 2 doors. Or the Gallo or M16, which can be reached by opening 3 doors. Any more than that isn't worth it, so don't do this with the Krig, the XM4, the Type 63, or the LW3. The good thing about grabbing them off the wall is they always have uncommon or higher rarity and do more damage than your drop-in gun. The other thing is, you can carry 2 of them, so you can have your drop-in Gallo and the wall Gallo and switch between them and still be leveling up Gallos. The other option, if you really are desperate, is to pull a gun from the mystery box and hope that it's one you still need to level up. If it is, go ahead and use it. If it's not, pull another one. My 7th note here is that the Die Maschine sucks. That's it. I just really hate the Die Maschine in zombies. It's a piece of junk. KSP too, really, but it's quite a bit better than the Die Maschine. The launchers, especially the Noob Tube, require a bit more finesse. The Noob Tube won't even one-shot kill in round 2, so you really need to kite and bunch up the zombies in a tight group before shooting into it 1, 2, 3, or even 4 times. This will completely screw up the times I calculated, so I can't tell you if going to round 6 or 7 is optimal or not. The good thing is these weapons only go to level 35. They don't actually have level ups and they're much better pack-a-punched, so taking them deep isn't that hard. They're just a pain in the butt off the start. With no attachments, there might not be any point in leveling them up unless you want the camos. So if you do want those, take them up to 20 and then go play deep rounds, doing 20 round deep or even 25 round deep with pack-a-punch and rarity upgrades. The knife is easy mode, do 7 rounds no problem to weapon level 20 and then go deep if you want the camos. The other thing, don't worry about putting attachments on the guns that increase salvage or equipment drops if you're just doing the 7 deep leveling. Use attachments that help you kill faster. Bigger mags, higher damage barrels, more range on the SMGs, but you don't need extra range on anything else. Faster aim down sight time, faster sprint to fire time, less recoil, and higher fire rate on the marksman rifles and snipers. Unfortunately, opening the doors and getting Deadshot Daiquiri takes 8,500 total essence. You should have that by the start of round 6, but at that point it's not worth taking the time to get it. That's kind of unfortunate because if you run controller, that would get you headshots real easy right off the start. On PC with mouse and keyboard, it's never worth getting Deadshot Daiquiri almost because it doesn't give you snap to crit. So it's kind of worthless. In conclusion, the fastest, most efficient way to level up your guns is to do 7 round deep runs. If you have trouble with 7, then go as deep as you can. 6 if possible, but 5 minimum. This will help get your weapon levels up as fast as possible. That's all I have today. Perhaps I'll be back when Firebase Z is launched. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.
No rest in peace.